We're, what is
Yes.
that?
Oh, that was me. I thought you did that.
I didn't do that.
Oh,
Well, welcome back to the Perks Recap podcast. What was that?
that was Fly Eagles Fly. I was on my.
Oh,
I had it queued up to play at the end of the podcast, like right after the last word I said, but I kind of gave that away now. Sorry about that. I thought it was so perfectly timed with when you said that we were starting because I just was trying to pull it up. I didn't think I hit play, but then it played the second you hit one. Unbelievable. The
well,
Eagles can't be stopped, Craig.
yeah, 40-22. We actually both got it right. I actually said the Eagles were going to smash them, and I was pretty much spot on with that.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
you called it more accurately than I did for sure. You even
uh,
talked about having one of those second halves where you can just sit back and enjoy it.
yeah, and that's pretty much what it was. I will say. Uh, in terms of an independent football watcher, just not a fan of either team, no dog in the fight, the
Hmm.
game pretty much sucked.
Yeah, well,
I
that's
didn't.
how everybody feels when somebody blows somebody out. I felt that way when San Francisco beat the Chargers in
Right.
'95, and some of your Dallas games and all that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. Yeah, the game was not enjoyable for just a regular, because if you don't have a dog in the fight, at the very least, you just want to see a good game, and that was not that.
No, there was definitely no fans of getting a good game were going to be happy that day. Really, there was only fans of the Eagles were going to be thrilled with that game.
Right. So, congratulations to your Eagles, and take it away. What do you want to talk about with this game?
Well, man, there's a lot. But what a game, first of all. I mean, geez. I mean, I was so nervous about just, the history of the Chiefs, their legacy in close games, the fact that they have one of the best coaches and one of the best quarterbacks, they had a really good defense. I mean, things, there were challenges presented in this team, and and they took out a couple really good teams along the way that we thought could beat them too, maybe. Um,
Yep.
so there was reason for hope because the Eagles had a hell of a team this year for a blowout, but I wasn't going to pick it. No way. You know what I mean? And
No, and I understand that. Yeah.
yeah, but few things happen. Bing bang boom. Here we are. Now let's go to the beginning of the game and just walk through this a little bit. I was ready to throw my television through my window on the AJ Brown offensive pass interference on 4th and 3 to open up that game.
You know what I was thinking?
Yep.
Because that was a BS call.
It was. I was livid. I was absolutely livid. And it was such a big balls play, and they delivered Jalen and AJ. And then to have it taken away by a garbage call just made me so mad.
Yep. Are you there? I seem to have lost you, so hopefully you'll be right back. But I was just talking about the play, the first play that we got.
So for the Eagles,
Oh, there you
I
go.
just
There,
made a
you're
big
back.
play.
You've been gone, Al.
Oh, really?
You were gone for like 20 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, you just started talking about the AJ Brown play that you went bananas, and that's it.
Oh, that's so weird because nothing was happening on my end. Okay. Well,
Or maybe
anyway.
I was going. I don't know, but I didn't hear you anymore, and I was still recording and still going, so I just kind of filled.
Well, we'll assume the listeners didn't hear me then, and I'll talk about what I was saying. So the AJ Brown thing, and then I was saying from that point forward, it was just all Eagles. You know what I mean? It was just I
Right.
was like, okay, well, I guess we're all right. So just going through the game a little bit, one of the neat things early on was they got every bit of the third round draft pick they traded for Jahan Dotson out of him finally
Yep.
on that one play. When it was 0-0 early and he caught the ball that was originally ruled a touchdown and then became a tush push because he was actually on the half-yard line. So that was nice. The
Yep.
Eagles pass rush was just kicking ass.
Well, that's what won the game. The pass rush, the pressure they put on Mahomes is the reason why they won. He could not do anything. Every time he dropped back, he had to avoid three guys. It was just nonstop all day. They could not block anybody. They're two they're two
Oh, Craig, here's that
tackles.
thing I have to deal with. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, they're their two offensive tackles in Kansas City are below average. They're subpar, and I would say they that's the reason why the Eagles won. They got pressure every single time Mahomes dropped back, and the numbers, the numbers are pretty rough for Mahomes in general. Probably his worst game that he's ever played as a professional, or maybe since his rookie year. I have not seen him look like that really his entire career. There were 15 penalties in this game. I'm always going to have the penalties. Um, Philadelphia did have 8 and Kansas City 7, but Kansas City had 7 for 75. And for the conspiracy theory, the Kansas City thing with the penalties, it just really didn't happen. A lot of the questionable calls went the Eagles' way, and there wasn't that many to begin with. And then by the second half, it didn't matter.
Oh, and I'm back, brother, and I heard that last chunk, and I agree 100%.
Yeah, I just mentioned that there was 15 penalties. But they really didn't, other than that first one, really didn't play into the narrative of the conspiracy because the Eagles just didn't make that an issue. The Eagles just made sure that there was not going to be any shenanigans by completely blowing them out, and that's the only way to do it, and they did it. Um, so yeah, you can keep going on about what you want to talk about with the game.
Okay, so, um, well, there's just some really cool stuff. There's some stats that are just kind of mind-boggling. Um, Let me get to my next perch here so I can read them at you.
Yeah,
Actually,
I
you
also
mentioned
mentioned that Mahomes probably played one of his worst games of his career.
oh yeah, statistically, it was the second worst of his entire career, including any type of game, regular, post, anything.
Right, and yeah, he just did not look like himself at all,
Yeah,
and
and I'm
that's
going to give
because of
credit.
the Eagles' pressure.
Exactly. Yeah, it was right from the first drop back. You know, like
Yep,
right from the first drop back, he wasn't able to do anything. Right from that first drop back, he was not able to do anything. Josh Sweat was in his face all day. Um,
absolutely.
it was just astonishing the way they were able to rip through them. I couldn't believe it. I
How
couldn't.
how deep do your stats go? Do you have the pressures? I can't find pressures.
Ooh, I don't have pressures. I might
Quarterback
be able to
pressures.
find it as we're going through the pod today, but I don't have it.
He's got
Let's see.
there were 6 sacks, but there's got to be at least double that in pressures.
Yeah, I remember. I remember seeing a number during the game, and I think I remember the last time I remember seeing it was at like 12 or 13. But I'll have to see if I can find it. Um,
Time of possession was dominated by the Eagles as well, 36 minutes to 23.
yeah. Okay. So I got my notes now. Sorry about all that, people. I had somebody come and do some work at my place, and Craig was nice enough to fill for me while I dealt with it. But we are back and ready to rumble. So here's some fun stats. 6 sacks, like you said. 2 picks. 1 pick 6. Cooper DeJean on his birthday in the Super Bowl. How cool is that?
I didn't realize that was his first pick all year.
I didn't catch that. I thought he had one earlier in the year, but maybe you're right. You might be right.
Well, definitely his first pick 6. I know that for sure, but I thought it might have been his first pick all year as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You're right about pick 6 for sure. Other than that, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Um, Zach Baun had an unbelievable interception. Every time, because I mean, this is the team that came back from how much against what was the biggest deficit they came back from in a I can't remember, but they came back from like 17 or something like that
I
one
think
time.
so. I know they came back from 10 against the Niners last year.
Yeah, 10 just last year against the Niners. That's right. That's right.
Right. And
So
by the way, Cooper DeJean did not have an interception in the regular season.
there you go. Okay. Nice. Um, yeah, so you had Cooper and Zach Baun having the picks. You had the forced fumble by Milton Williams, so 3 turnovers during the course of the game, and the 6 sacks, plus how at least double that in pressures, I'm sure, like you said.
Can't
Um,
find them. Can't find the pressures anywhere.
That's so wild. You'd think you'd be able to find that stat easier since the damn NFL keeps it. But it's the way they put these stats sometimes can be a little mystifying.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a couple things here. One of the things, did you see the stat during the game about the size of the Eagles' offensive line being the biggest in Super Bowl history?
Yeah, something like average of 6'4", 330 or something was the average or something.
6'6", 338.
There you go, 6'6", not 6'4".
That's
Yeah,
insane.
that's gigantic.
That's
Obviously.
insane. One of the coolest things I saw at the end of the game, I don't know if you happen to catch this, was Mekhi Becton weeping and hugging Howie Roseman and
Yeah, I did see that.
yeah,
Considering where he came from.
dude, he was written off as a bust. He
Yeah,
was, you know, and one another lesson for people to learn is if you play for a garbage organization, it might not be on you, you know.
yeah.
So Mekhi Becton goes from people thinking he was a bust because he played for a crappy organization, the Jets, to a borderline Pro Bowler playing for the Eagles. So beautiful thing. Um, Hurts made his only bad play early on. He threw that pick.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking there. That was not a that was weird. I'm watching that going, what is he like? Even before it got picked, I'm like, what is he doing here?
Yeah, that was the. It was because he played such a good game.
He really
That was
did. He played a great game, but that one play was just I don't know,
totally
just
out of character.
mystifying. I'm like, what's going on here? I mean, it kind of was like a punt anyway, where they ended up getting it, but wasn't it only third down?
Yes, correct. It was. Yeah, it wasn't fourth.
Yeah, so I don't know, but whatever. That was one play, fine. He finished with 221 yards, two touchdowns. I will give the Kansas City one thing. They held Saquon Barkley in check. I was waiting for him to bust one, and he never did.
Well, the
25,
entire world. Yeah, I'm sorry.
25
Go ahead, please.
carries, 25 carries, 57 yards.
Yep, yep. The
Uh,
entire world, including both of us, thought the Eagles were going to win on the strength of Barkley. And not many people thought that if Barkley was stopped, that Jalen Hurts was good enough to win this game. I did. Not many people did. And he proved them all wrong.
right.
Jalen Hurts is now one of the most prolific quarterbacks in the history of the Super Bowl, which is crazy to think about. He and Joe Montana, Craig, are the only two quarterbacks in the history of the Super Bowl to lead two teams to 35 points or more.
Wow, wow.
Yep, crazy. He broke his own Super Bowl rushing record by 2 yards, rushing for what was it, 70?
72,
Yep,
72.
yep. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of Jalen Hurts haters out there, and they all have to shut up this offseason, and I love it. And by the way, one more Super Bowl win for a guy who's 25 or whatever he is at this point, 26, and they're gonna have to put him in the Hall of Fame like freaking Eli Manning if Eli gets in.
Well, Eli did not get in, so we'll have to see. And he
He
was not
will.
close. He was
He
not
wasn't good
close.
enough to get in year one. Everybody knew that, I think.
Yeah, but he wasn't even close. He missed it by a lot. But anyway, um, Mahomes. Well, the three turnovers. We've been saying it all the whole postseason. You win the turnover battle in almost every single game. I think actually every single game, the team that won the turnover battle ended up winning the game, and that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's rare you win the turnover battle against a Patrick Mahomes led team. And that leads back to him being forced into playing so poorly. You know, they, the team stats at the half, Craig, they're dramatic enough at the end of the game, but the Eagles pulled a gas off on the defense in the fourth quarter, and that's where he ended up with 22 points. But at halftime, Mahomes was 6 for 14 for 33 yards.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
The
Just
entire team had 3 yards rushing.
yeah. They only ended up with like 40. They ended up with 48, 49 yards rushing.
And almost all of that was Mahomes scrambles.
Let's see. It was 49 yards, and Mahomes had 25.
Yeah, no running back ran for more than 9 yards.
Yep. Yep. This is
I
a
thought
side note
there.
that I thought of that has nothing to do with the Super Bowl, but you said turnovers, and it sparked my memory because I was trying to remember what it was,
Yeah.
and that you just sparked my memory. Just it has nothing to do with the Super Bowl. But real quick, Jared Goff is the only player in NFL history to throw five interceptions and win the game, and throw for five touchdowns and lose a game.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow, I hadn't heard that one. That's an awesome stat. Wow. I remember the
Isn't that
five pick
an
game earlier
amazing
this year.
stat?
That's incredible.
I
I
just
remember the five pick game earlier this year. I certainly remember, but
Yeah, he threw for five and lost.
that's insane. I can't even imagine that. Oh, it was probably that Bills game, huh? Wasn't it the Bill when
Yeah,
they?
I think it was, but I just didn't want to forget it again because I know if I just wait to the end or something, I probably wouldn't remember. So I
That's an
just want to
awesome
throw it out there
stat.
real quick, because I do think that is an amazing stat. I love that one.
Incredible. That's a good one, man. That's one of the best ones ever. All right, so running through, getting into the second half, and then getting into just some overall stuff here, real quick. Um, my favorite call of the game is the Eagles stopped the Chiefs on fourth. The Eagles stopped the Chiefs on almost every fourth down that mattered
Yep.
until the second half when it was over, the fourth quarter. I mean, and they stopped them again on their first drive of the second half, or their second drive because the Philly had already kicked a field goal to make it 27-0. They have the ball on their 46-yard line, and they throw a bomb. Everybody and their brother is expecting them to hand the ball to Saquon three times and
Yep.
grind the clock. And one of the most beautiful touchdown passes you'll ever see to Devontae Smith, and it was gorgeous. 34-0, game over.
Did it get to 34-0?
Yep, it was 34-0 before the Kansas City Chiefs crossed the 50-yard line.
Wow.
Yep.
The only guy, I mean, I got to give credit to where credit to do though on for Xavier Worthy, 8 catches, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's a hell
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
day.
I mean, it was almost all garbage time, but he did it.
Yeah, and yeah, I think next year he's going to be much more involved in the offense, and for the fantasy guys, he's going to be highly sought after. I think.
I completely agree. I think they have a really great combination between him and Rashee Rice now.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. But anyway, let's get back to this game.
Oh, okay.
Well,
And
like I said, it's just for me. Just I called you. I texted you, congratulated you, and said I was tapping out before the fourth quarter even started. So I didn't even watch the fourth quarter.
yeah, which I don't blame you at all. And it was so funny because I texted you back. It tells you how well this game is going for me as an Eagle fan that I'm even looking at my phone before the game is over.
Yes.
So, a couple other fun things because one of the other big things that I talked about was that the Eagles had a serious kicker issue. Well, guess where that kicker issue stands after this Super Bowl? Jake Elliott is now the most accurate kicker in Super Bowl history, Greg.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened all year long, but yeah, he nailed everything.
Everything. 50-yarder, 48-yarder. It wasn't a bunch of gimmies. It wasn't chip shots. It was hard stuff. Even the very first field goal, he makes a 43-yarder. They get a penalty. He has to make a 48-yarder.
Yep.
So great. I felt so good for him because he was so good for so long and he was just awful all year. And it was so nice to see him come through in the clutch because I thought it was going to be a big problem. And thank goodness it wasn't. What else do we have here? Some stats. Um, we talked about Hurts and Barkley. Barkley. The nice thing about Barkley is even though he got stuffed on the ground because the Chiefs put everything they had into stopping him, he still caught 6 passes for 40 yards, so he still had 97 total yards. Which, while it wasn't what got him there, got the Eagles there, it was enough that day. And 57 yards was enough for him to become the all-time leading rusher in the history of the game for the entire season, including playoffs. He broke Terrell Davis's record.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that? I didn't even know that was on the table going in. I missed
Yeah, no idea.
that. Here's my favorite, maybe my favorite stat of the whole game, Greg. The Eagles never blitzed once.
Yeah, I know. They got all that pressure on with their front four.
Front four only, which is just astonishing. And
Well,
um,
I was saying when you were letting the guy in there, um, the Kansas City offensive line, the tackles are really below average. I didn't realize how below average they are. They're horrible.
they're
They're both
horrible, Craig.
both of their tackles are really really bad.
This finally brings into focus perfectly what's wrong with their offense. Because their offensive weaponry was a whole lot better by the end of this year than we talked about at the beginning of this season and all of last season. Um, but it wasn't really improving the offense a ton. And here you go. They had one of the best guards in the league, Joe Thuney, who they kicked out to tackle at the beginning of the playoffs, and they took a plus position, made it a minus, and then made a plus player an average player at a different position.
Yep.
So it was a really tough spot for them. They need tackles badly. They signed that guy from Jacksonville in the offseason, whose name I'm blanking on right now, Jawan something. And he was really bad. They let their left tackle walk, thinking that guy was going to be the left tackle, the guy from Jacksonville. He ended up not being. He couldn't make the transition, and ended up being a mediocre at best right tackle on top of it. And they gave him left tackle money in the offseason, so it was a bad mistake. So they have to do some digging there to figure out how to fix that.
Yep. Yep. I tell you, Kansas City was playing with fire all year, and they finally got burned.
Yeah, it's a credit to them in a lot of ways to how far they got this year because they did it on the strength of really good coaching and the will of some players. And because
Kind of smoke and mirrors.
yeah, because I mean, listen, their defense is pretty real. I know the Eagles hung 40 points on them, but their defense was really good all year. And they can certainly stop the run, you know,
Right.
but. But their offense struggled, you know, and their offense was their hallmark through this whole run. So yeah, they got to figure out a way to get it back. But you know, they were still good enough to beat every other really good. We both agreed that the AFC was stronger this, you know, in the playoffs. The top three seeds were incredible, and they went through them like butter. So here we are.
Here we are.
Couple
Wow.
now,
So the Eagles are your Super Bowl champions. How good does that sound?
boom, baby, let's go. 2 times in 7 years. I can't freaking believe it.
It's
I really
fantastic.
can't.
All
Do a
right.
couple things real quick on before we move off of this because I know we want to get to our tight ends.
Yep.
Um, let's see here. Oh, here we go. Okay. So here's my question. And there's no way to quantify this because we'd have to go up against some of Jerry Jones's off seasons back when he had no restrictions, or the 49ers back then when they were trading Dion and Charles Haley back and forth every other season. Because some teams in the history of the NFL have had some incredible off seasons, and those teams were among them. But the question I posed to you is how it was this. I don't think there's any way to ask, is it the best offseason ever? Who can say that? But it certainly, I think, was among the best offseason ever. And I'll throw you some things and then you tell me, give me all your thoughts. When you look at what he did, the draft was insane. They got two full-time starters, two future Pro Bowlers in their corners at picks 22 and 40. It wasn't like they were handed to them. They got Jalix Hunt in the third round, who was one of those guys pressure and got a half a sack and was pressuring Mahomes all night. And a couple other contributors. They got that 6'6" receiver in the sixth round that dropped the pass in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But he was playing in the Super Bowl, so that's not bad. Their free agent class was one of the best you'll ever see. That especially given that it wasn't a bunch of big names. They got Zach Bond for 3 cents, all pro Zach Bond. They got C.J. Gardner Johnson back. They got Saquon Barkley. They got Oren Burks, who played a huge backup role all season and was a starter in the playoffs at linebacker. And they got Mekhi Becton, the guy who cried because everybody thought he sucked, and then he became a Pro Bowler with the Eagles. And on top of that, Craig, and this is what makes it extra special to me, they had a horrible season last year with their coordinators, and they bring in Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore.
Yep. Kellen Moore's definitely going to the Saints, though. But
Yeah, it's official.
yeah, he's going.
Unless he pulls something weird like, unless he pulls a Belichick or something weird.
Right. But for the 1 year, yeah. I tell you what, nothing else comes to mind that can really compare with that. Like you said, we can't really compare the '90s, early '90s, when they didn't have these the salary cap and all that stuff and the free agency. So you have to kind of go over past that to the 2000s.
Yeah,
But in the last, basically the last 25 years, and I got to
yeah.
say, yeah, the last 25 years, at the very least, you could stack it up with anybody's.
That's
Um,
how I feel.
when the Rams kind of went nuts and were
That's another great one. Yes.
seemed to be signing everybody, and everybody was like, "How are they fitting these people under the cap?" Because it just seemed like everybody was going to the Rams, and they sold out for for that Super Bowl, and it worked. They got it, and but other than that, yeah, I would say the
That's
Eagles are right there with that one, maybe even a little better, but or whatever you think. I think it's kind of subjective. I don't
And
think there's
that's a
one
great one,
way.
Craig.
Yeah,
That's like you've brought that one up before, and that's 100,000% valid. And here's the difference in why I love Howie and why I'd give a slight edge to the Eagles if I had to, even though the off seasons are probably. I mean, dude, the guy, on top of all the people they signed, they traded for Jalen Ramsey, who was clearly the best corner in football at the time. I mean, the Rams did some magic that off season. Here's the difference between them and Howie, which has always astonished me and perplexed the media. They will have zero cap ramifications after this year, which is insane. The Rams blew up for 3 years.
right.
So that's where I'll give the slight edge to Howie. But just as far as getting it done that year, I think they're exactly on par. That's a great point.
Yeah, but other than that one, yeah, that's about it.
Love it. Great point, man. Perfect. Perfect.
All right.
Well, sure. Oh, and hey, last thing I want to say, because one of the things I've been so impressed with Jalen Hurts about is his ability to just stay cool. Like this guy I swear his resting heart rate must be like 13 or something. Like the dude doesn't blink. Nothing phases him. He doesn't get that excited when things are going well, and he certainly doesn't get down when things are going bad. And here's a quote that typifies what a team player this guy is. There, I was watching. Of course, I've been watching every possible thing I can about the reaction to this since Sunday. One of the neatest things I found was this audio of one of the Eagles team representatives coming up to Jalen in on the post game craziness and telling him he won the. Told the quote was he said to Jalen Hurts, "You're the Super Bowl MVP," and Jalen Hurts turned around to him without blinking and said, "No, I'm a Super Bowl champion."
Ah, very good. Well,
And this
well,
is
well
why
played.
Philly loves Jalen Hurts.
Well played.
Yeah, man, I thought that was awesome. So, is he ever going to be a top 3 quarterback in the NFL? No, but I'll take him every time.
Well, you know you can definitely win with him. That's all that matters.
Exactly. It's been proven.
Yep. So you don't have to worry about that.
Right on. And this is where I was going to cue Fly Eagles Fly, but I let that cat out of the box, so I'll let that pass.
I was counting down to start the pod, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing this, and I'm like, what the hell? I couldn't even really make it out at first. I
It's
just thought
so
it was
funny, Craig, because
something in the
I was
background that you
like,
didn't mean to play.
dude, I'm literally like, I had literally just queued it up before, like, as we were talking, like 30 seconds before you said started the countdown. So I guess my internet was slow or that thing because I must have hit play and then it started playing right when the countdown ended. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, wait a second, Craig queued that up? I was like, that's pretty cool. I mean, I know he congratulated me on, but he's a Cowboy fan. That's a little over and above.
Yeah, that definitely was not me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if the Cowboys have a song, but you're never going to hear me sing it, you know?
Right, right.
Oh, I love it, man.
One little thing here: the
Sure.
Giant fans in the area are absolutely losing their mind from the pregame show. Do you know what this is from?
I don't think so.
Did you watch the pregame?
No, no. I mean, I might have seen 30 seconds of it off and on.
Okay. Well, at one point, uh, Saquon Barkley and Michael Strahan were on a boat or at the marina or some on a dock, something like that,
Okay.
and they did basically did an interview with him, and he he congratulated Saquon. He said he was pulling for him, so that right there raised the eyebrows of Giants fans.
Interesting.
And then he grabbed an Eagles flag and flew it.
No, he
Wa-
did not.
Waved it back and forth while the segment closed and they pulled out.
Dude. Dude.
And
Oh,
the
oh my
Giants
God.
fans are losing their minds.
Okay.
And to be honest, I think I would too. I'll give them. I'm not going to come down on them like I usually do
No,
or
not
make
in this
fun of
case.
them. Yeah, that's BS. I would be pissed.
That's garbage, bro. I can't believe it. Like, that's great. Okay, so let me throw this at you on top of that, and then we'll compare because that's so wild compared to what I saw. I'm sure you're aware that the Kelsey brothers have a podcast.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was fascinated to watch it this week, given Jason's ties to the Eagles and Travis just losing, right?
Yep.
Well, so contrast Michael Strahan grabbing the Eagle flag and waving it around on Fox to Jason Kelsey breaking down in tears on the podcast discussing who he was going to root for, who he was trying to root for during that game.
Really.
Yes. He was so upset. He felt so bad. He said he couldn't enjoy it at all because he loves his brother. He wants to root for his brother, but he loves his Eagle brothers and he wants to root for the Eagles. And then he had to pause and gather himself. I couldn't believe he gave that much of shit about just answering who he was rooting for. And then contrast that with Gap Tooth Strahan, who's just cashing another check on his way back to the morning show. You know? Oh, I love it. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. There's some Giants fans that are like fine with it, but there's a lot of them that are pretty upset, and I understand. I would be upset because that, like you said, that's BS. That's I don't know. I don't like that one bit.
That's crazy, dude. And listen, this is also, and it's still, even as I say, I'm going to make a modern era comment as how modern athletes are different. And even as I say that, there's still plenty of modern athletes that would have shoved that right up his butt. You know what I mean?
Right, there's
Um,
no way. Like you picture like Derek Jeter on the baseball playoff starting waving a Red Sox flag.
yeah,
No
right.
way.
Yeah, right.
I think at one point David Ortiz tried to give him a hat or a jacket or something, and he threw it on the ground,
Oh, see, perfect. Perfect. I
which is
love
what
that.
he should do.
See, that's beautiful. I love that. I mean, I'm just imagining, Chuck Bednarik or one of these old school super tough guys. If something like that happened, he would have ripped his head off and shoved it right up his butt. It's
Yeah,
incredible. I mean, that's so funny. I totally missed that, Craig. That's freaking awesome.
yeah. So that was a point of discussion, and most Giants fans were like, yeah, there was. I mean, they also went a little too far. Some of them. One of them said that they should unretire his number. But I don't know. Yeah, I would definitely be upset with that, and I would want an explanation or at least an apology or something. And he hasn't done any of that, obviously.
Yeah, well, I doubt you'll see one coming. I mean,
Right.
that doesn't seem to be in the character of Strahan that I know.
Yeah, he'll just ignore it and act like it never happened.
What are they going to do? Take away one of his 14 paychecks he's making from all the TV shows he does? I mean, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's
game
not going to
show
hurt him at all.
host and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, they can't hurt him. I wish I wish he could feel the impact of that a little more, but there's no way.
Right.
The only thing better would have been if somehow Brett Favre had figured into this whole thing. So the fake sack that got him the record.
Right. Well, yeah. That one, the last one was BS, but the other ones were real.
He was awesome, and he deserves the record. It's just a shame Favre chose to do that. It wasn't Strahan's fault.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, the season is officially over,
How about that, man? You blink, and here we are.
but the podcast continues on.
Dun dun dun.
Yes, last week we did the wide receivers, top 10 of all time. Make sure you check that out. Um, this week we're going to do the tight ends, the top 10 of all time. And then maybe next week we can do running backs and quarterbacks.
Yeah, since we don't have like a game to discuss at all, that we'll
Yeah,
have time to do too. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
yeah, that sounds good. And then we might take we like last show take some breaks. Take a few weeks off here and there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but we're gonna keep content coming out, of course. And then of course baseball's ramping right up too, and we'll have content regarding that as well.
And we'll have the draft coming, and I'm gonna dig heavy. It's like I've chilled out as I get older on the draft, but I think I'm getting fired up like I was when I was in my 20s and 30s about getting into this draft this year because there is so much intrigue. I mean, already I've seen mock drafts go from having Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward go 1 and 2 to now they're scattered between 3 and 9 or 5 and 11 or you know what I mean. So it is going to be when they don't know where the quarterbacks are going. Drafts are real wild.
Oh yeah, this one's gonna be crazy.
It's going to be fun. So yeah, we'll have plenty to still talk about.
Okay, top 10 tight ends of all time. This
Dun-dun.
one was not that. It was tough, but it wasn't the toughest. There's a clear cut, in my opinion, top three or so. But
I'm curious to see where that lands for you because I don't know if it's so clear cut to me. Clear cut number one was easy. Everything else was semi difficult for me. But
okay,
but not like I wouldn't say it was like trying to cram another 14-second baseman in like we did with Jordan the other week. You know what I mean? Like
right. I have some honorable mentions, but some of the lists were kind of all over the place.
100% because and let's say this before we dive in. This is one of the toughest positions to compare cross generation
Yes.
because what they expected out of the position changed so much over time. I mean, the stats on the classic dudes are so much lower than any of the modern era just because they didn't really start passing to tight ends regularly until the 60s or 70s, and even then it was way less than it is now. So we had to take some of that into account. I'm sure you did as well as I did. I have a few honorable mentions as well, but it'll be fun.
All right. So you're number 10, sir.
My number 10, and I'm starting Homer, buddy. And it's not just Homer, it's justifiable. And it's the only, and I in baseball, I don't put anybody that's still playing on our list. but I did it twice on this list, and I broke my own rule because they're both at the very, very end of their careers. And my number 10 is Zach Ertz.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's amazing to me. Like we talked about this, like maybe halfway through the season, Craig. How underrated Zach Ertz is, and I get it. Like he never, he never put up like I don't know. Well, I shouldn't say that because he has the single season catch record for tight ends. So he's put up monster seasons. I'm not quite sure why he's so underrated, actually, now that I'm trying to come up with a reason for it. But here's the thing Zach Ertz is number 6 all time in tight ends receptions. Does that surprise you? Because it probably
That
surprises 98% of the people that would hear it.
that does surprise me. I didn't even put him as an honorable mention.
No, I don't, and I don't. It doesn't surprise me that you didn't, Craig, and I'm not really offended by it or anything. You know what I mean? This guy has flown under the radar for so long, and then at 30, what is he now? 35, I believe. He comes back and has his best season in 3 or 4 years,
Yep.
playing for the the Commanders and taking them all the way to the NFC Championship game. So he is 6th all time in receptions. Um, I don't know where. Let me see where he is in yardage. He is 9th all time in yardage. And touchdowns, he is 11th.
You're
Tied for
right.
10th,
He
I should
gets
say, with Dallas Goedert.
disrespected because I have a list here of 25. He's not even on it, on the top 25.
Yeah, see, and that's what I'm talking about. And so while I do understand him not making a top 10, he damn sure ought to be in somebody's top 25.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm kind of upset myself that I don't have him in the honorable mentions.
Well, I get it, dude. I don't blame you because he goes so under the radar, and he had I think part of the reason too is he had this astonishing run with the Eagles where he was over 100 catches for like 2 or 3 years in a row, and he was above 90 for like 5. And I could be a little off on those stats. I don't have them in front of me, so please don't hold them to me. But it's close. But then he started getting dinged up, and that's why the Eagles traded him. They had drafted Dallas Goedert. He had an injury plagued season. Goddard was coming into his own, and they traded him. And then he was injury dinged up for he only played like half a season or so for the next few seasons. Then he finally came back and had this awesome season again this year. So I think that's why he falls under the radar. Maybe the injury fall off there for a couple years. I don't know.
I
It's
just didn't realize his numbers were that high in terms of like all time with receptions and yardage and TDs and stuff.
Yeah, and it's sneaky, and it's really sneaky. And this is also part of it is the generational thing, because I don't know. I mean, do I want to make a case that he's better than? I don't want to give away any names that might be on the list, but some great tight end from 1962 who only averaged 30 catches a season. I'm not sure how to exactly break that down, but I can look at Zach Ertz's stats and say, oh, he's top 10 in every major tight end stat. I can put him on the list.
Yep. Yeah. No problem there. All right.
Cool. So who's your number
My
10?
my number 10 was Shannon Sharp.
Love it. He's my number 6.
Okay, I saw him as high as I think 5 on a list,
Yeah, I
and
saw him all over the place.
as low as like 12 or 13.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I saw him all over the place, man.
Yeah, but I think he definitely deserves to be in the top 10 in my opinion. He's got 3 Super Bowl wins, obviously, 8 Pro Bowls, 3 All Pros, 815 receptions, and over 10,000 yards,
Yeah, man. He
62 touchdowns, and he's on
beast.
the '90s All Decade team, and of course a Hall of Famer. Those are his accomplishments.
Yeah, man. No, absolute beast. He was one of my. He's in that in my mind. Tell me if this makes any sense to you, Craig. He's in the kind of the second generation of tight end to really become an offensive massive force behind the. In fact, I don't even want to say the names of some of these other guys because they're going to come up. But behind the guys that were coming up in the 70s. He
Yep.
started in the 80s, and that next wave, he's kind of springboarded the next wave of tight end. He was in such good shape, too. Like, he was one of the first guys I ever remember just being just absolutely hammerjacked. You know what I mean? Like, just like
Yeah.
all the way until he retired at like 37. I mean, he played forever. He was a,
Yep.
and
3,000 yard seasons in a row, or not in a row, but 3,000 yard seasons. Um, yeah, he had some 80 catch years and a lot of touchdowns. I mean, yeah, he absolutely over 10,000 yards receiving for tight end. There's
Yeah,
not many that
beast,
do that.
beast. Like he was an absolute beast, man. Like no, you can't underestimate how good this guy was. And you know, when he got paired up with John Elway, it was a beautiful thing.
Yep.
It was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that was just that was something to see. And he was one of the fastest guys I ever remember at the tight end position. Like relative to like he was one of those guys that made people start thinking about putting nickel corners out on him instead of linebackers, which I used to do.
Yeah, because he would just destroy linebackers.
Yeah, he'd be like, later, see you,
Yep.
linebacker. Well, I love that one, man. He's my number 6. I'm right there with you with him.
All right, cool. Who do you have at 9?
Okay. Well, there are a couple guys, and listen, until you get to about 5 on the bottom 5 on my top 10, you could switch and match any way you want.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, cool. And this guy was my favorite tight end growing up. He played in my favorite game I've ever watched highlights of, and made the greatest play in that favorite game, and that is Kellen Winslow Senior, not Junior.
Yes, the Chargers, was it Dolphins?
You got it, my man. You
That
got it.
game, yes.
The
Yes.
overtime game, and he blocked the field goal.
I had I had remember these if you like got Sports Illustrated they would send you like a video sometimes like a
Yes, yes.
VHS. One year it was like the hardest hitters, and another year it was great sports moments of the 80s. And this was about 89 or so that I renewed my subscription or whatever, or
Hmm.
my grandfather did or whatever. We got this video. And in the great sports moments of the 80s, that Winslow game is on there.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. And they show him getting carried off
Yes.
by his teammates at the end. Um, so yeah, he said it was like the greatest play ever or greatest game ever by a tight end. He had 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros. He's on the NFL 75th anniversary all-time team.
Yes.
541 receptions, 6,740 yards, and 45 touchdowns. Obviously in the Hall of Fame. He is my number 6.
Love it. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I struggled with him because it's like, this is where it's tough because in my mind, he's one of the best tight ends that ever played football.
Yep.
But because of the way the game was played then, his stats don't hit the top 10 for almost anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I
Right.
wasn't
Right.
quite sure what to do, but I'm glad he's on your list. He was damn sure going to be on mine.
Yep. There's a few that are on my list that kind of don't really measure up, but I just thought they deserved to be on there. But we'll get to them.
Right on. Right on. Okay. So that was your number 9?
That was your 9.
That
My
was
number
my 9.
9. Yeah, my number 9. I'm interested if he made your list. I could definitely see him not. But I put Jackie Smith number 9.
Okay, Jackie Smith is one of my honorable mentions, and I totally would really tried to get him on the list. But once I decided Zach Ertz was going to be on there, I couldn't get him on.
Yeah, 5 Pro Bowls, 4 All-Pros. He still had 480 receptions, not terrible, and almost
In that
8,000.
era, very impressive.
Yeah, almost 8,000 yards, 40 touchdowns,
Yeah,
and is a Hall of Famer.
yeah.
So yeah, he was one of the ones that I really debated back and forth quite a bit with some others, but I decided to put him on there. I could have just as easily put on a few other people, but I decided against it. But yeah, I obviously knew the name, but I looked up his stats. I was pretty impressed. So he's on my list.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And I don't know if you happen when you were looking up lists, if you happen to come across. Do you know who Gil Brandt is? I assume you would, being a Cowboy guy.
Yes.
Okay, so Gil Brandt is one of these guys like that. He's like one of the most highly regarded, like old school scout type of dudes, right?
Yeah, he had his list was there. I looked at it.
His list was fascinating because he had like 6 guys on the list that I didn't even put on mine, but because he lived through all those eras, I have to respect him, and he knows his stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had Jackie Smith pretty high on that list. I think he was somewhere around 6 or 7, if I remember right. So I could be making that up, but he's on his list for sure.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely, he was a guy on my radar, and I just couldn't get him in. But I'm glad he made your list. That's awesome. He's a great player, and in a different era, that dude probably would have been approaching 1,000 receptions for his career.
Oh yeah, I think if he played nowadays, he would be definitely like up there with all the big numbers.
Yeah, there's some guys. sometimes it's tough to cross the generations because of size and stuff. But Jackie Smith, no problem. You can roll him right into today, and he'd be great.
Yep. Um, says don't forget he's also the sickest man in America.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Against Pittsburgh, and when he played for the Cowboys, 35-31 loss to Pittsburgh. He dropped the pass in the end zone that would have won the Super Bowl. And I always remember that call. Jackie Smith, he even said, I think the announcer even says touchdown first.
Oh,
He says, Jackie Smith, touchdown. Oh, he's got to be the sickest man in America.
oh, it's so rough. Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, it says that it overshadows the fact that he was a solid and at times dominant force throughout his Hall of Fame career, but that's what he's remembered most for.
Yep, and you can't get away from it, but it is a shame because, and the real, probably a real shame for Jackie Smith is that there was no fantasy football back then. Because if he had made enough fantasy football people happy, they would have forgiven that drop a little more, or at least not remembered it as the only thing they ever saw or paid attention to by him.
How about this? How about his average yards per catch?
I'm trying to find it.
Six,
Where is
I
it?
got it right here. 16.5.
Oh my god! I mean, that's got to be at the top of tight. Yeah, that's number one all time on tight ends.
Yeah,
Number one all time.
16.5.
Wow. Wow. That's point 0.5 more than Steve Largent.
Yeah, and you got and that's the way you can kind of quantify, or at least it's something that can help some of the older guys when passing wasn't as prevalent, because they threw the ball down the field. There was none of this dink and dunk. Nothing, none of that was prevalent at all in the '60s or '70s, and even in the '80s until about the late '80s, early '90s, and George Seifert and that kind of stuff, the run and gun and all that came into the league. Before that, they threw the ball down the field.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, that's something else, man. I mean, that's just incredible. Wow.
All right. Well, that's my number 9. So who do you have for number 8?
Okay. Well, we're going back this time again. This is kind of 70s, 80s, 90s, dude.
Oh, we might have the same guy.
Okay. Well, is your guy also one of the greatest GMs of all time?
Okay, no. I know who you're
Okay.
thinking of.
All right, all right. So my guy is, and that is Ozzie Newsome.
Yes.
Is he on your list?
He's on my honorable mentions.
Right on, right on. And that's he's one of those guys that you could put either place, and it's totally cool. To me, it was him and Kellen Winslow were the tight ends when I was growing up. They were the
Yep.
tight ends, and there
Yep.
was, there were other guys, but those were the two that mattered. And if you were being heard about playing for the Cleveland Browns in the 1980s, pre-internet, barely Sports Center, um, then you must be damn good to get your name out there playing for the damn Browns in the 80s, man.
Yeah.
And I
Bernie
heard about
Kosar's Cleveland Browns.
exactly. And Ozzy, they were just talking about Ozzy in the Super Bowl actually, because one of the tight ends, I forget who it was, it might have been Goddard, I can't remember, did an out route, and they called it the Ozzie Newsome route.
Yes, yes, yes. I remember that during the game. Yes.
Remember that? I was like, that's pretty cool, man. Like they call it the freaking Ozzy. That's awesome. And I just remember my lasting impression of him is catching an out route, bringing the ball in securely, toe tapping if he had to, not if he didn't, and boom, there's 8 to 15 yards. Let's go, do it again.
Yep. 662 catches, 7,980 yards, so almost 8,000, 47 touchdown. Obviously, Hall of Famer, 3-time Pro Bowler. Yeah, everything you want. He was definitely considered for me. He's also on the '80s All Decade team.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, good call.
So, I mean, yeah, he could definitely be on my list, and he definitely could be, switched out with anybody in my bottom 5 for sure.
Yes, and definitely the best GM of anybody we're going to read on both of our lists. I'm pretty sure.
Agreed.
All right, man. You're number 8.
Okay, my number 8, who I thought maybe you were going to, but he's a little bit before Ozzie Newsome. He's more in the 70s. And of course now my oh come on, completely shut down on me.
Oh, right on, right on. Well, hey, you need me to filibuster? Just let me know.
All right. So my number 8 is John Mackey.
Oh, on my honorable mention, glad he made your list. Yes, big fan.
If I could call his stats up, I'd give you some of the numbers. But anyway, I did write down some things. He won an NFL championship before the Super Bowl, and then won a Super Bowl as well. 5 Pro Bowlers, 3 All Pros. The '60s All Decade Team,
Yep,
but
yep.
only 331 receptions and 38 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. But another one of these guys who I think if he was playing today and had the size for a tight end, and I think he would be a really good one.
I completely agree. I couldn't agree
And
any
I
more.
tell you what, one of the lists I read, he was number 3.
Yeah, no, he was
Somebody had
way
him
up
number
there.
3.
This is one of those guys too that like he was used differently because of the way the game was played at that point than a tight end would be used now. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like he
yep,
was all over the field. He carried the ball sometimes. You know, he had 10 carries one year for 103 yards.
yeah.
But yeah, no, he was the prototype of what the position was going to become. I mean, he was
Uh,
one of the
another
early.
yard, another yards per catch, monster.
Oh yeah,
50,
15.8.
15.8 yards per catch.
Dang.
And don't forget, the John Mackey Award is given out in college for the best tight end.
Right,
He's
right.
got an
Still,
award named after him.
that's right. Yeah, you know you're good if you get an award named after you. That's awesome.
He missed only one game in his entire career.
Oh, I just saw that too. That's incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, and the NFL all-time team they did this in 2019, the NFL 100 all-time team, and he was on it.
Man, he comes up a lot in those discussions. And he was
Yeah,
on
I
the
see why that list has him 3.
no doubt, no doubt, and he was on the he played with Johnny Unitas, so and those Colts teams are legendary.
Yep.
So he's a massive chunk of NFL history, man. He really is, and a perfect example of not being able to quantify some of these older guys with stats. You know what I mean? Even though stats that do exist are super
Yeah.
impressive, they don't hold a candle to the modern era. But we know how great he was in his era, so he should be on this list. It's great. He
Yep.
was my first alternate.
Yep. Okay, so you're number 7.
Okay, now I had to cut an old guy to get this guy on, but this was the most surprising of the stat discoveries for me. I know Zach Ertz will be it for most people, but since he was an Eagle, I knew about him. But the other guy that surprised me in this exercise the most, and I knew how good he was because he was on my fantasy team a lot because he was underrated when he was playing, and I got a lot of value out of him, and that is big headed Greg Olson.
Really? Okay, he did not make my list. But I was surprised at how much he showed up on all these lists that I pulled up. I pulled up lists and he was always there. Like
That's what
eight,
it got me
nine,
going.
yeah,
Looking at the
7.
numbers and looking at the lists, I was like, I wasn't even thinking about Greg Olson, but now I have to.
Yeah, I did not realize. I mean, yeah, his numbers are right there with anybody. It's surprising. It is. It's surprising, and I did not expect to see him there. And I'm like, well, that's just one list. Let's see. And then pulled up another one, and there he is again.
There he is again. I'm right there. It's so funny because I had a very similar reaction, and then I went to the numbers, and it's wild, man. Because he and Zach Ertz are wildly similar. Check this out. So Zach Ertz was sixth in receptions with 775. Greg Olson is seventh with 742. Um, Zach Ertz had 53 touchdowns. Greg Olson had 60. Ertz averaged 10.4 yards a catch. Olsen 11.7, so he had him a little bit there. So he had a little more yards because of it. So Ertz has 8,088. Olsen has 8,683. But they are both. So Olsen is number 7 in receptions. He is number 7 in yards. And he is number 9 in touchdowns.
Yeah, he's right there. He deserves to be on the list.
Yeah. And
He was in my honorable mentions.
right on, right on. That's totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 Pro Bowls. He had 3 1,000 yard seasons in a row, And up until I think Kelsey broke it, he had the record for three. No other tight end had 3,000-yard seasons in a row.
I forgot about that. That's a great call. That's a great call. Yeah, because he was playing in Carolina a lot of his career with Cam Newton, and
When
you
Cam
know,
Newton was good.
yeah, when Cam was good, and he was never, even when Cam was good, he was never a great passer, which meant that the 5 to 15 yard range that Greg Olson was presenting him was perfect, and they hooked up a lot in that era.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's Greg Olson, man, my number 7. What do you have for 7?
Okay, my number 7 is going way back to a to my beloved team, but he's known more for the coach, and that's Mike Ditka.
Ah, my he and Mackey were the two hardest people to leave off. So he's not on the list, but I'm glad he made yours because he was definitely we've talked about his rookie year on the pod before. That was just insane. So please go
Yeah,
right ahead.
he's got a
That's awesome.
championship, a Super Bowl. Obviously, great head coach of the Bears in '85. Um, 5 All Pros, 427 receptions, 5,800 yards, 43 touchdowns, and a Hall of Famer, of course. And yeah, he had an impact, and he kind of changed. He was like the beginnings of the very, very beginnings, just like little hints of where you were heading with tight ends.
Exactly. I completely agree. I completely agree. His rookie season is insane. Like it would be crazy now. He had 56 catches for 1,076 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Like that, I don't know what that. I don't have that. It doesn't. It's not showing the yards per catch in front of me here, but that's got to be pushing 20 yards a catch. It's got
I
to be
should
like
have
9.
it. Well, his whole career, he averaged 13.6 yards per catch.
I mean that it's just wild, wild that he was that good. And by the way, since I said that clearly Ozzie Newsome is the best GM of all the players on this list, Ditka clearly is the best coach of all the players on this list.
I agree. I agree.
And that rookie season, by the way, 19.2 yards a catch.
That's insane.
That's like, I mean, only the fat, like, that's like Deshaun Jackson type stuff when Deshaun Jackson was in. Only like crazy speedsters who only catch deep balls do that anymore in the NFL. That's wild. Great. I'm so glad he's on your list because he and Mackey were the most painful ones for me by far.
Yep. All right. So who do you have for 6?
Okay, so 6 I'm out because I had Shannon Sharp.
Okay, I'm out as well because I had Winslow.
Okay. Whew. Well, now this top 5, buddy, I honestly, I feel really good about 1 and 2. And then I could interchange 3, 4, and 5, and you could tell me I'm crazy, and I wouldn't argue if you wanted me to switch with any.
I'm willing to bet we have the same 5.
Okay, all right. Well, is your guy known to reenact pro wrestling maneuvers at nightclubs?
Uh, Gronk.
Yeah.
Okay, I have him 3.
Okay, and that was so hard for me because that's where this was so hard because Gronk at his peak, Gronk at his best would be number 1 on this list.
Yes, yes, I agree.
If I had one, if they were all healthy, and I had one game, my guy would be Gronk. Period.
Because he could block, he could catch.
He can
Yeah, I
do it
mean, he had
all,
92 touchdowns.
and he was injured so much. The fact that he put up and he played through a lot of it. Like you like even like his games played aren't horrific, horrible. Like, but he was injured. Like the back issues with him started in like year 2. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like he was injured. The fact that he put up the career he did with the injuries that he had is unbelievable. And if I was playing one game tomorrow and I need one tight end in the history of the NFL and he's healthy, that's my guy. The only reason I knocked him down is because he wasn't healthy and he didn't have the some of the accumulating stats of some of the other guys that I put above him. But you can put him anywhere you want on this list, and it's fine by me, honestly.
yeah. I mean, almost 9,300 yards, 620 catches, but again, 92 touchdowns. He had a nose for the end zone, that's for sure.
100%. 100%. I mean, he
It's
was.
one out of every 6 catches he made was a touchdown.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's really you think about that. I mean, that's crazy. And his yards per catch, 15, is second all time to Jackie Smith.
Yep, yep. And then of course he got the 4 Super Bowls, 4 All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowls. Just yeah.
Came back after. Was he out for? Do I remember that right? Did he retire for a year, or did he just wait for Tom Brady to come out of
Did
retirement?
he retire and then come back when Brady came back, but didn't maybe miss the beginning of the year or something? I
That's
don't think he missed an entire season.
Yeah. I'm blanking now that I brought it up. I'll find it real quick. Rob
Yeah.
Gronk. Here we go. Did Rob Gronk miss a season? I don't think he did. I think you're right with what you said. No, he did. He missed he retired for the all of 2019 and then came back and played 2020 and 2021.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. How about that? So and that was his age 30 season, Craig. That's still like super prime. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, beast, absolute beast. I'm cool with you having him at 3. I struggled with where to put him just because of the injuries, but again, like I said, if I'm playing one game tomorrow and they're all 100%, I'm taking Gronk.
Yeah, he was probably the most physically gifted.
I agree, and he would probably, if I had to hang out with one of them for fun in my partying days that are long gone, it would be Gronk too.
Yes. All right. Well, my number 5 is my boy. I try not to be a homer, although I wanted to be a homer and put him at like number 2. I didn't, but Jason Witten obviously deserves to be on this list. Obviously, will be a Hall of Famer, and he's got some pretty impressive numbers as well. And more than anything, 1,000 catches and 11,300 yards.
His stats are unbelievable. He's the listen, he has a lot of wonderful physical skills. Not a Gronk insane thing, but when I compare him to Gronk, listen, his physicality is insane, Jason Witten. Okay, just not Gronk level because that's the most elite physical tools of any tight end that ever played in the NFL. But what he had that Gronk didn't is this insane. He played. I mean, Jesus, Craig. He started in '03, played 15 games. Then from '04 until 17, he didn't miss a game. Then he retired. He came back, played 2 more years, and didn't miss a game.
Yeah. By the way, the year he missed the one game,
Yeah,
he had a broken jaw, and his jaw was wired shut, and the doctors had forced him to miss the game, and he didn't want to. He wanted to play with the broken jaw,
it's incredible. I didn't remember that. That's insane. I mean, what a tough guy.
and he still
And
came back a week later, and obviously it was still wired shut.
I mean,
He made 10 Pro Bowls too,
he's model of consistency while still being a spectacular player. You know
and
what I mean?
also a
Like,
Walter Payton Man of the Year too.
yeah, and that's nothing to blink at. He's, I mean, he had 4 seasons over 1,000 yards. He
Yep.
had, what was it? Jeez, I mean, I'm gonna have to do some math here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 years over 700 yards, Greg. That's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. So yeah. By the way, Witten is number 4. I put him one spot ahead of Gronk because of his ability to stay on the field.
Yes, he obviously did. He definitely stayed on the field, and for me, I mean, that's my guy.
Yeah.
That's my guy, and he doesn't he doesn't really need to hold the back seat to anybody.
No, I
His
get it. I mean,
his
listen,
football
I watched
IQ.
him. Listen, and there was no more annoying guy that if you're not a fan of the Cowboys on 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 9 than Jason Witten because that dude knew where the damn freaking marker was and he was going to get an inch or 3 past it every time.
Yeah, his football IQ was absolutely through the chart,
Yeah,
off the charts. I mean, I mean, when he got older and he was like, dog, just so slow, probably would be in contention for the slowest guy in the entire league.
yeah,
But
yes,
he still was catching 60, 70 catches a year because he was smarter than everybody else. He knew if you were in zone, he knew right where to go down and go sit down and just get your 5 yards or 8 yards and move along, move along.
completely agree. I mean, the dude caught 63 passes at 37.
And again, real slow.
And that was after sitting out a year. So, I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
and don't forget too, he also had that game against the Giants where he had the 18 catches.
Oh, I
which is
forgot about
nuts.
that.
Yeah, he had 18 catches against the Giants. I was watching that game with my father, who was a Giants fan, obviously, and he was absolutely losing his mind,
Oh, I can't even.
just
Oh my.
screaming, "Cover him! Why is nobody covering him?"
Oh, that's awesome, Craig. Oh, you must have been having a fit. I would have been too. Holy crap.
He's like, "You think
Oh.
after maybe 12 or 13, you change up what you're doing?" But yeah, he had 18 catches against Giants, and then also the one other thing to this will be the last thing
hmm
against your Eagles when his helmet fell off, and then he went another 70 yards on the field
Oh, I totally
without the
remember
helmet.
that. I completely remember that. And yeah, you could have ripped off every pad on his body and he wouldn't have stopped for anything.
Yeah, I remember he got sandwiched between two guys, but that kept him up.
Yeah, yeah,
I
totally,
think if
totally.
one guy or the other guy was there, he probably would have went down on the hip, but they sandwiched him together, and he just stayed up.
Yes, it was the dual force just
Right,
kept him
and they
going.
both fell down, and that was it, and he was gone.
Oh my God, that's so funny, man. And
But with
yes, that
no
play.
helmet, and that's another thing too. Today that wouldn't fly, right? That the play would be dead.
Well, I assume somebody had to make helmet to helmet contact to force that helmet off.
Right, but what do they? I don't know. I thought there was going to be a rule. Maybe it didn't pass. Where if your helmet falls off, the play's dead.
Oh, I don't know about that one, Craig. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe
not sure.
not. Maybe not. Maybe not. But
But
either
yeah,
way, he had no helmet on, and he went about another 50, 60 yards down the field.
oh my God, that was that image. Only 20 years later can make me laugh. At the
Right at the
time,
time, I'm sure
oh,
you
I
you
was
were
just
not happy.
screaming.
All
Oh,
right.
I love it. Well, Grat's great, man. Yeah, Witten's my number four, and yeah, he was an all-time great. I mean, he is clearly in that. To me, 5 through 1 are in there, in almost in there in a separate category, and he's part of that separate category.
All right. This is the only one I'm not sure if you're going to have on your list.
Okay,
Oh well, you can. Well, your number four is done, right? So I have my number four.
correct.
Okay, my number four. I'm pretty sure he's going to be there. He's probably going to be. I guess he'll be your number three. But I have Antonio Gates.
Yep, he's my number three.
Okay, yeah. Eight Pro Bowls, three All Pros, all the 2000s All Decade team, almost 1,000 catches, but 11,000 yards, and the touchdowns are where it's nuts.
That's yeah, yeah. That's why he's number three for me over the other two.
116 touchdowns.
What the hell? I
Are
mean, good
you
lord,
kidding?
that's crazy.
I mean, I remember him distinctly. Obviously, I saw his whole career,
Yep.
but I just never, I did not know it was that many touchdowns.
I mean, I remember him being the touch. Like you wanted him over like a guy like in fantasy, like Witten, for example, because it was rare for Witten to get double digit touchdowns. It was rare for most tight ends to get double digit touchdowns.
Yep.
But and how rare it is that Gates is a super tight end touchdown monster, and he only did it 4 times his whole career. Super impressive. You know what I mean for a tight end. He also had 9 twice and 8 twice and 7 3 times. So I mean, he was a beast. He was the first. Well, no, not the first. Another guy was the first. But he was one of the early. Let's take a basketball player and turn him into a tight end guys, and it's one of the very few that actually ever worked out.
Yeah. Another one was Jimmy Graham,
Exactly.
who did not make either of our lists, but I definitely saw him and considered.
Oh, and by the way, and we should too, because talk about touchdown machines. Just while we mention him, that dude is fourth all time tight ends touchdowns.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, 12 ahead of another guy that's going to be on both of our lists coming up soon.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, super impressive. Gates was a monster though, man, an absolute monster. I'm with you 100%. And yeah, so he was what? Was he 4 for
He's
you?
he's number four. But by the way, real quick, one last thing on Gates. He's sixth all time for touchdowns by anybody, not just tight ends. Sixth.
Oh, that's wild. I didn't even think about that. Wow,
He's sixth on the career list of touchdowns for all non-quarterback players.
that's incredible.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, Jesus, that's amazing.
All right. So you're number three.
That was Gates. So we are to
Okay.
year 3.
My number three is Gronk.
Okay, so
So
my
you're
number
number
2.
two.
Okay, and I'm on. This is the only other guy that's active. And there's no way I could. Like I said, and when we do our baseball lists, I just make the hard rule that I'm leaving active guys off. But there's no way we could do a tight end list and leave this guy off, and that is
Yeah, because if he retires right now, he's going down as one of the best ever, or possibly the best ever.
if he retires right now, I put him right where I put him today on this list, and he has a chance to get a little higher. Although I don't think it's going to happen, but he does have a chance, and that is Travis Kelce, number
Yes,
two.
and he's my number two as well.
Right on, right on. And geez, he is third all time in receiving yards. He is third all time in receptions. He is fifth all time in touchdowns. And we've seen just this run of dominance from him.
7 straight 1,000-yard seasons.
I mean, that's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
when considering that the Standard Bear was three,
Yeah, right, right, right.
he more than doubled that. He also postseason numbers are really good. 19 touchdowns and 22 career playoff games.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that includes this year or not.
his postseason numbers are ridiculous. It's more than a whole nother season. and and it's every bit as good or even better than his regular season numbers, which is incredible.
Yeah, over 1,000 catches, 12,000 yards. Yeah, 77 touchdowns, still going. I think he's going to play again next year, although I don't know if he's made an official decision or not.
He hasn't, but I'm with you. I think if I had to guess, I'm guessing he's coming back.
Yep, yep. But wow, yeah, his numbers are right there. And yeah, like you said, he's an exception to the rule. That's how good he is. He's that good that we made an exception to the rule of not doing active players. And not only is he on the list, he's number two.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Right there with you. Yeah, just an absolute stud. One of the greatest players I've ever seen at any position. And I like when you're trying to do all time lists, and it's hard for us when we haven't seen. There's a certain point at the early '70s and back that you and I never saw anybody play other than highlights and stuff like that. But when you see a guy like this play his whole career, I mean, you can easily quantify just how good he is and how much better he is than everybody else at the time he's playing. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I mean, he was the number one. Not that fantasy always correlates to real life, but in this case, I think it's a valid point. He was the first tight end taken by a round or two at least for like 10 years in a row.
Yeah, ridiculous. Yeah, that's the thing is he was down. He was around during a time when all these older tight ends were either at the end of their career or were gone, and nobody really took up the mantle. Um, Witten and the guy that's coming up, Gates, Gronk, they were all towards the end, and that was a kind of a golden age where all four of those guys were playing at the same time.
Yep.
And after they were gone, it was just Gronk. It was just Kelsey, really.
Yeah, I mean, well, and let's not forget Zach Ertz, since now that we reminded people
Right,
how
right,
awesome he
right.
is,
Yes, that's
because
true. That is absolutely true.
but like you kind of indicated there, nobody was really. I mean, Zach, you couldn't ignore his 116 catch season or whatever it was that one year. But nowhere during this stretch was anybody talking about Zach Ertz being 1B to Kelsey's 1A. You know what I
No,
mean?
like he was. Yeah, like you said, Kelsey was still getting taken rounds before the next tight
Right.
end.
There was a thing in fantasy drafts called the Kelsey strategy.
Yeah, yeah. Like I mean, it was that impactful because it was
you
so
know,
because you had such an
Kelsey in the
advantage when you drafted him as your tight end because he was going to possibly double the production of your opponent's tight end.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, there's been more discussion about the validity of that strategy versus other strategies than discussion about whether immigration is a good thing or not. Like it's like people talk about like it was like okay, but if you get Kelsey and you get to double the production, but then you're weak at your number one receiver and I mean this was a thing for like 10, 12 years.
Yeah,
This discussion of well, I know Kelsey's going to be the best by far. It really only ended, 2 years ago, maybe, after this
yeah.
incredible run.
I'm in a keeper league, and I've had Kelsey like the last like 5 6 years in a row,
Yeah,
and this finally is going to be the year that I let him go.
that's incredible. I mean,
In the
the
first
thing
in
that
the
you're
first 4 or 5 years, it was absolutely totally worth it.
No brainer, yeah. And to think that you had no issue keeping a guy, and it was the right move, keeping a guy who was entering his mid 30s. You know what I mean? That wasn't
Yes.
a quarterback, because every other position that usually matters. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Incredible, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes back, how many more stats he accumulates. But
Yeah,
to me, I think he's pretty well. Unless he plays another 5 years, I think he's locked in right here where he is forever.
yes, I agree. Which means
Dun dun dun.
we have the same number one. And if you follow pro football, I'm pretty sure you know who we're talking about. That is Tony Gonzalez.
And this was easy.
It really was. It's completely insane. 14-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All Pro, 2000's All Decade Team, 2019's NFL 100 All Time Team. He's on that as well. 1,300 catches, 1,500 receiving yards, and 111 touchdowns. My God.
It's insane. It's insane. Like, he was so good for so long, and the only person that played more games than him at the tight end position is Jason Witten, and he got him by one, and that was after coming out of retirement and playing when he was 38 and 39 years old. So incredible longevity and incredible just awesomeness. Like, he was the best guy for a long time. He did it multiple places too. He was great in Kansas City. He was great in Atlanta. He was just spectacular, head and shoulders above any, like, all the last few people, everybody on this list. We both respect immensely, and that top five was very tough to figure out who to put one or two, three, four, and five in some cases, especially three, four, and five. But there is zero question in my mind, and obviously yours too, about who number one is. Yardage. He has Jason Witten by 2,000, over 2,000 yards. Receptions.
Well, but don't forget, Kelsey's overweight now. So he's actually got 1,000 more than Kelsey.
Oh, this thing it didn't update this season then. My bad. Okay, so
Kelsey's got
yes.
12,100 and Gonzalez has 13,200. So he can, if Kelsey plays 2 more years, he might pass him.
Wait, how many yards does Kelsey have?
I have 12,151.
Oh, that's still less than Witten though, because Witten has 1346. Do we have
No,
different
I
numbers?
have with a 11,388.
Oh, that's so weird.
I could be wrong. I hang on.
It's okay. I'm on Stat News. I don't know.
I'm going to go to Pro Football Reference. I was looking at a list and I realized that it was not completely up to date. It was kind of older, but I didn't think it was that old where Witten was still playing.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Maybe they thought he came out
Um,
of retirement again.
you're right. He has 13,046. I actually shortchanged my guy.
All good, all good. And I know you wouldn't do that on purpose.
Yeah, he had. Oh my goodness, he had 12. Wow, 1,228 receptions. I had him at 1,084. So wow,
You can make a case for Witten as number two.
you really could.
You really
Wow.
can. I mean, like, honestly, the only thing Kelsey has over him is touchdowns, and it's only by three.
Right, right, right. Okay, so well, Witten Kelsey can definitely catch Witten if he plays 1 more year, and if he
Agreed.
plays 2 more, he might be able to catch Gonzalez. But either way, regardless, Gonzalez is still the guy because of 1,300 catches. That's insane. Kelsey's not going to catch that.
No, no. And the closest, Witten again is number two, and he is 97 behind him.
Yeah, 1228. So yeah, wow, Witten's numbers are really, really, really good. They stack up really good against guys like Gronk and Gates and Kelsey.
It's wild, because the reason it's so hard to position these guys, other than Gonzalez, is especially Witten and Gates, is
Well, Gates
because
has the touchdowns though.
yeah,
That is impressive.
and that's why it's so tough, because Witten has him in every category except touchdowns and yards per catch, but it's
Yep.
a pretty dramatic number on the touchdowns. So that was a tough one to figure, man. Like, It's a tough one to figure, but you're not going to go wrong if you put any of those guys that we had 2 through 5 in any of those spots. I don't think personally. It's just Gonzalez is the clear number one to me, and then but after that, pick your poison.
What a hell of a draft. Witten was a third rounder.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right.
That's nuts.
Anyway, back to Gonzalez. He's the guy. He's the GOAT. He's obviously number one. And to be honest, I knew he was going to be number one. I just didn't realize, kind of like with like Gates with the touchdowns, I did not realize how much of a lead he has on everybody else. The numbers he put up are crazy.
They really are. They really are. Um, his last year, Craig. This is wild. We just talked about Witten putting up 68 or 63 catches at 39 years old, and that's crazy impressive. Tony Gonzalez played until he was 37. His last season, he had 83 catches for 859 yards and 8 touchdowns. I mean, that's bonkers, bro. That's absolutely bonkers. I mean, just he was the deal. Do you remember the
He led the
early
league in
scuttle?
he led the league in receptions one year.
Yeah, yeah. That as a tight end, which I don't know if any other tight ends ever done that. Ertz might have done it that year. I'm not sure, but it can't be a commonplace.
That's for sure.
Man, yeah. The early. Do you remember when Tony Gonzalez was a rookie and maybe even into his first couple years in Kansas City? All the talk was about his shaky hands.
I do remember that.
How dumb do those idiots look now?
Yeah, didn't he get fined too for doing the slam dunk over the goalpost?
He did. He was I think in my memory he was the first guy to ever do that. Now I could be forgetting 27 other people,
Right, right, right.
but in my mind he was the first one to ever do that.
I'm pretty sure he got fined.
Oh, he definitely did because he was in the no fun league era when they didn't want you to do anything that indicated that you were a human being.
Yes, yes, that you're a human being with emotions, and you can't be excited about anything.
That's right. If you portrayed any more emotion than Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator, they would fine you. Ass.
Yep.
Oh shoot.
Well, there you go. How about some of your honorable mentions
Oh, good call. I almost
that
forgot
we
about the
didn't
honorable.
mention? I have I have one who shouldn't be on there. I kind of put him on there, and then when I saw his stats, I'm like, oh, but it was Russ Francis. I also have Ben Coates on there.
Oh yeah, those and listen, Russ Francis I saw on somebody's list.
Yeah,
So
that's why
somebody
I
thought
decided
enough
to
of him.
put him on there. But then I looked up his stats, and I was like, oh, not
Yeah, and that's
seeing.
where it's tough with some of those guys because he
But
was
he
supposed
does.
to be a great
He had,
blocker.
yeah, he had 40 touchdowns. But
Yeah.
another one. These guys are all on their respective decades, all decade team.
Mm-hmm.
Which was one was Newsom, obviously, but the other one, Charlie Sanders and
Oh yeah.
Dave Casper.
Casper's a guy I was very familiar with because I was obsessed with those 70s and early 80s Raiders teams. So I was
Yeah,
very familiar with
52
Casper.
touchdowns. All of these guys are in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, but the numbers are a little lacking. Sanders 336 catches, Casper 378. But they all made a bunch of Pro Bowls, all pros. And they definitely were good down by the goal line, especially Casper, 52 touchdowns on just 378 receptions. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I forget John Madden's exact quote about him, but it was something about him being the greatest tight end in football of his generation or his favorite tight
Well,
end.
I mean, he made the 70s all decade team.
Yeah, yeah, and he was great, man. And then he ended up playing with the Oilers. I remember at the end. But yeah, no, that's awesome. He was on your list. I didn't write him down for some reason, but I damn sure should have because he's one of my favorite guys from that Raiders era, man. So yeah,
Yep,
I'm
yep.
with you on that, 100%.
Cool.
Okay, so I had two guys that we didn't already discuss. Because I had Ditka and John Mackey were my top two guys, and then I had
Yep.
two guys that I put one that definitely doesn't have the stats to make the list, and the other guy that's borderline. The borderline guy is Keith Jackson. He was
Oh
in.
yeah, I remember Keith Jackson, also
Yep.
on
Yep.
the Eagles, right?
Yes, exactly.
Was he? Did
Exactly.
he go somewhere else after the Eagles?
Yeah, because he was on that Eagles team that was letting all their good free agents walk, like Reggie White and
Right.
Keith Jackson, Keith Byers. I mean, they let everybody walk at a certain point. And he left. He was only 26 when he walked, and he went to Miami. Played with
That's
Marino
where he
here.
went. Miami. Right,
Yep.
right, right. I remember him on Miami too.
And then he ended up in Green Bay, which I kind of forgot.
Was he with Reggie White in Green Bay?
He must have been 96. Yeah, he was on that. That was their first Super Bowl team, I think.
I think
96.
so.
Yeah. So, yeah, it says it right there. Yes, he was. So, and, he had some, it was in that era where the stats aren't going to blow your mind, but, his rookie season, it looked like he was going to be a Hall of Famer. His rookie season with the Eagles, and if Randall Cunningham had stayed healthy his whole time in Philly, his stats would be a lot better. But his rookie season, 81 catches for 869 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah, especially back then, a tight end making an impact as a rookie was unheard of.
Right.
So, I mean, between him and Ditka, that was 20 years later. It took 25 years to get another decent tight end rookie season. um, and he came in usually around 600 to 700 yards, and he was always around 5 to 7 touchdowns. He caught 10 touchdowns his last season in Green Bay playing with Favre. Um, but he's a not he shouldn't be on the list, but I remember him making a massive impact on the field, and he was a big tight end for me, so I wanted to mention him.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And Ben Coates is another one that I just mentioned, but he had a couple of years in there where you thought he was going to possibly go down as a possible Hall of Famer or really good when I mean he had some big years.
Completely agree. He was awesome, man. And when he was, I think it was, if I remember right, his big years were with Bledsoe in New England, right?
Right. Right. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean Bledsoe's another one. He talk about an underrated guy. He's got big numbers.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Drew Bledsoe has big time passing numbers.
No doubt about it. Yeah. There's no doubt about it at all. He was and he was one of the beginning of all quarterback stats changing forever.
Yeah, I mean his numbers are astronomical, and you'd be surprised. I looked him up one time. I don't know, it's been a while, but I remember looking at him going, "Wow, this is really impressive," and I'm surprised he's not talked about more. But
One of
yeah,
the greatest unsolved mysteries in the history of football, Craig, is what would have happened to the Patriots if Drew Brees never got hurt, or I just
Bledsoe.
Bledsoe never got hurt.
Yeah, I don't know.
If he doesn't get hurt, Tom Brady never gets in the game. Do they
Yep.
win? Does he win those Super Bowls? Does he win? Now he's going to retire before winning 7 of 10 like Tom Brady because he was older. But does he start them on that run, and does it go the same way? We'll never know.
There's
But
another
it's
thing too. He went to the Cowboys after that, and he got hurt. And not that we had any the same success as the Patriots. Obviously, we didn't win any Super Bowls, but we had a good run in terms of winning a lot of games. And that his replacement when he got hurt was Tony Romo.
Yeah, I mean, who else in the history of the game had to deal with two freaking great quarterbacks backing them up? I mean, he could have gotten hurt for 28 other teams, and they would have been begging him to play again after their backup played for a few weeks.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just bad luck.
Brady took over and never looked back. Romo took over and never looked back.
It's incredible. He got Wally pipped twice.
He really did.
Oh, that's incredible, man. But yeah, I'm with you. Coach was a monster for a few years with him. I think it was just that it didn't last long enough or something. It felt kind of like Keith Jackson to me, although he had bigger years than Keith Jackson. So um,
Yep.
I love it. That's a great one. And then I have one more, and this guy, there's no way I could have put him on my list, but there's also maybe, other than the fact that he played for a team that I hate, there might be no tight end I'd rather watch play, and that was Mark Bavaro.
Mark Bavaro, he was a load.
He was incredible, man. And if you could just shoot him with a drug or that gives him perfect health, he would be on this list for sure.
Yeah, he had a couple of incredible years, and he was the prototypical Bill Parcells player.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Yep.
He prototypical. If Parcells could have had 22 Mark Bavaros, he would have started every position.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
so with you, man. So
he
with you.
loves them, and that's enough for me, obviously.
Yeah, right there with you. Did you know, Craig, that Bavaro had 1,000 yard season?
Did he really?
I never would have guessed that. I was looking up the stats as we were talking about him. His
Was it the
second year in
Hostetler
the
year?
second year in the league, he had 66 catches for 1,001 yards.
Oh, so it was Sims.
Yeah, Sims. It was that. Yeah, it was that. That was the Super Bowl year, right? '86.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I remember that '86 season. I got a lot of family members, Giants fans or whatever, and they were loving him. And I was watching a lot of the games because they were watching him. And yeah, they absolutely loved Mark Bavaro. He is the kind of guy though. If he's on your team, you love him.
Absolutely. And as I get older and I can separate the hate from the respect, it was like, oh, that guy was something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
that guy was. I mean, if there, I don't think, and I'm going to include Gronk in this. I don't think there was ever a harder tight end to bring down than I ever saw. I take the think out of it. There was not a harder tight end to
I
bring down
remember
than
when
I ever saw.
Jeremy Shockey came in the league, and they thought he was going to be another Bavaro,
Yeah, yeah,
and he fell flat.
yes, yeah. He,
He had that one year where he was blowing everybody up, and they were like, "It's another Bavaro. You can't
yep,
bring him down." And then that was it.
that was it. That was
And I
it.
remember
Yeah,
Witten came around the same time, and I was like, "Witten's the better player," and they were like, "Oh, you're full of crap." I'm like, "Witten's better. I'm telling you."
yeah.
And boom, Witten was much better.
And 18 years later, when Witten is still posting 60 catch seasons and Shockey's been retired for 10 years, I think you easily won that discussion. Oh, I love it.
Now, I did not want Witten to be our head coach, obviously,
Hmm.
but I would not be opposed to him getting a position coach job. I kind of
Yeah,
hope they
start
do.
grooming him, right?
I kind of hope they give him one. Uh, I think he'd be good at that, and just maybe he's not cut out to be a OC or a head coach, but I think you should find out, and at the very least, I think he would be a good positional coach. Do they have tight end coaches? Is there a
Yes, they
tight
do.
end positional coach?
Yes.
All right, that's where you start.
I mean, come on, right? Like who are you going to
Yeah,
get better to coach tight ends?
yeah. And Dallas has a couple good ones.
Yeah, darn right they do.
Yeah, Jake Ferguson and stuff. You could definitely learn a thing or two from Witten, I'm sure.
Darn right, man. And that the other guy that they took in the second round played
Oh
well
yeah,
when.
I always forget his name.
I do too, but he played all right when Ferguson was out this year.
Yep. So we'll see. We'll see. I would not be opposed to it at all. Not a head coach. Good lord, no.
No, you can't. No, that's the last thing you want is just somebody just walking in. Never. I mean, even a guy like Jason Witten who sleeps and breathes football, you got to get some coaching under your belt.
Right.
Like I'm still like a little surprised people are ready to seemingly. I mean, it didn't happen, so maybe they weren't that ready, but seemingly ready to go all in on Dion in the NFL when he's only been coaching for 3-4 years. You know what I mean? But he's put in some time, so I do get it. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
But to just rolling off the street, I don't care how highly I think
Dion
of
can
any guy.
rally. Dion can. What he can do is he can rally men.
No, there's no doubt about that.
That much he can do. The pregame speeches will be epic.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's right. Oh man, I love it. I love it. And hey, listen. And to his credit, listen. I was all ready to be like, yeah, no, there went that Dion experiment his first year in Colorado because it was bad. It wasn't. It was awful. But he turned it around, took them to a bowl. They weren't great, but they were good this year. They
Yeah.
went to it. They got smoked in a bowl game, but that was better than 4-9 from the year before, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So he's shown something. You know what I mean?
Right. I just hope that his kids don't his want to coach his kids don't screw up his career and their career because of that. You know what I
I'm
mean? Like,
fascinated to see how that all goes, and we're gonna
yeah,
find out in about 2 months. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
I got a feeling that he's going to want to, and it might not be a good decision for him or them, but I think he's going to try to.
I'm fascinated by it, and we're gonna know an awful lot soon because his son's gonna be drafted by his quarterback son is gonna be drafted by somebody to be their franchise guy in about 2.5 months. So
New
we're
York
we're gonna
Giants.
find out.
New York Giants are going to go 3-13 again, and Dion will be the coach in 2026.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
That's the prediction for me.
That,
Where do you think some of these guys go um, for the draft? In terms
oh,
of
like Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
yeah,
Okay. So, well, early in the mocks, they were both going. They were going 1 and 2 every time. Every
yep,
time.
yep. They're not anymore.
Not even close. So then you got to start thinking about who needs what. And I need to pull up a
The thing
draft.
is, Tennessee and Cleveland both need quarterbacks, so I kind of
That
don't understand.
exactly. Which is here's what I think is going to happen, Greg. we've had years like this before where people are a little iffy on the validity of the quarterback crop. It almost never stops at least one of them from going in the top five. And I think when it's all said and done, they're going to go 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I'm not sure who's going to go 1 and who's going to go 2, but I think it's Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders 1 and 2 when it's all said and done. There's too many teams that need quarterbacks at the top.
yeah, the top three picks.
Exactly. Exactly. And nobody's really making a case out there that Travis Hunter or the what's the Abdul Sanders, is it, or what's his
Yeah,
name?
yeah, yep.
Nobody's making a case that they are massive once every 50-year type players. They're great players and everybody wants them on their team and would take them gladly, but nobody's making the case that it's the next coming of Dick Butkus and Bronco Nagurski or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right, right.
so if there's decent quarterbacks out there, they're gonna go before those guys, in my opinion. So what do you think though? Because I
Yeah,
mean
I
it could
think
go anywhere. The opinions are all over the place here.
I think so too. Uh, yeah, I'm going to say yes. I think so too. Oh, by the way, Josh Allen won the MVP.
Oh, we never got to talk about the awards. That's right. Good call. I thought you were probably right because of the fatigue and stuff, and he had a great year. So nobody's going to be like, oh, they gave it to somebody who sucks. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well,
So
what made me think more about it was the fact that the stats don't mean everything for it. They help obviously, but somebody said, and I think I said this on the podcast, was the fact that the year before when Lamar did win it, he didn't have as good a stats as Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott had more of everything than him.
right, totally, and it's not just it's never just been a stats award. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And to be honest, with the way Buffalo was coming off of everything they lost this year, really all they had was him, and they had a great year.
No
He
doubt
probably
about it.
is the most valuable because another thing too, not that it's a bad thing, but Lamar had Derrick Henry for the first time, and that helped them, but maybe hurt his MVP chances
That's a fair point. That's an
because
absolutely
Josh did not have anyone that had the impact of that Derrick Henry.
no. That's an absolutely fair point. No doubt about it. Yeah, it was. Listen, it was splitting hairs. You could have given it to either one. You know, um, if they had listen. I mean, the other argument for Lamar, if you really want to make it, is 35-10, and that was the score when they played each other in favor of the Ravens.
Right.
So that was the other case
But
I
then
was making.
Buffalo beat Kansas City, which is big.
Absolutely,
So I don't know. Whatever. Either way, he won it.
absolutely.
No problems.
Yeah, we're splitting hairs between two of the best players in the league. You know what I mean?
Yep. And I did not realize that Carson, not Carson, Joe Burrow was up for comeback player of the year,
I didn't either.
and he won that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But I didn't really think of him as a comeback player.
Well, that's because and I believe let me make sure before I say this, but I'm pretty sure that's the second time he's won that award. Because I talked about him being injury prone before the season, and we had a little debate about that.
Yeah.
And I think winning comeback player of the award twice would tell you he's injury prone.
Right. Well, this first year, didn't he blow out his knee?
Yes,
Or didn't he blow it out in college? Actually,
I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember. It's been a while. But I
Yeah,
know he blew out his knee. It was either his first year in the league or in training camp or maybe his last game in college, something like that.
I can't find why.
Well, it doesn't matter.
I'm
It's all
out. It
good.
doesn't matter. But listen, the dude is incredible. So the fact that he got some award, if he was eligible for an award that wasn't MVP, he should have won
Yeah, unbelievable.
it. I'm fascinated by the fact that the Bengals are just running it back, same as before. I mean, they fired their defensive coordinator, who, by all accounts, is a very good defensive coordinator. Just wasn't given good players by their notoriously horrible front office, and so they replaced him with the guy from Al Golden from Notre Dame, and who used to be Temple's head coach years ago, and and that's it. and T. Higgins may be there or not. And if they lose T. Higgins, I'm not going to pick them to make the playoffs. I'm going to have a hard time making them pick the playoffs if T. Higgins comes back because they can't win in the first 2 months of the season. So I can't figure that team out, man.
Yep. And by the way, he tore his ACL and MCL in his left knee in 2020
That's what it
against
was. Okay.
the Washington football team.
Okay. Okay.
So
All
it
right.
was not in college, but yes, he missed the entire season.
So then he won comeback in 2021 and now.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm fascinated by that. I can't figure out why they can't get it together because man, that dude is so good. Their offense is incredible. I'm just curious to see if they can overcome their early season, whatever that is.
Yeah, because if they have an okay early season, the way they finish every year, they'll have one of the best records in the league.
Yeah, exactly,
Because every
exactly.
year their last 8 games are like 7-1 or something.
Yeah, totally. They're like
It's weird.
screaming, and
It's
everybody's like, they're the
so
hottest
weird.
team not to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Don't want to face the Bengals, but don't worry, you're not going to have to because they can't win in the first 2 months.
Yeah, as long as you face them, then you're good.
Yeah. Man. Wow. Wow. So yeah. Well, so what about the other awards? By the way, we had so MVP went to Josh Allen, come back to Joe Burrow,
Offensive went to Saquon.
Saquon as we expected. You got your coach of the year. You picked correctly. Minnesota.
Yep,
Is that it?
that's all I wrote down. That's all I have.
Oh, the rookies of the year.
Oh yeah, Daniels, and who was the defensive?
Oh, they gave it to. It was a surprise. They gave. No, it wasn't. They gave it to Jared Verse. It wasn't a surprise, but it was. And the way he played in the playoffs, he earned it. But the vote was before the playoffs, and somebody else I think deserved it more than him. But I'm not going to argue because he played so well in the damn playoffs. He earned it then.
Yeah, yep. Cool.
But his own teammate had 4 more sacks than him during the regular season. That's the guy that probably should have won. The defensive tackle, Fisk,
Yep, yep.
or Quentin Mitchell, but he didn't have any stats to back it up because they wouldn't throw at him.
Right, it's hard to win that.
I love it, man. Cool. All right. Anything else we wanted to hit?
I think that's everything.
I think we did it, man.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, next week we're gonna hit our top 10 quarterbacks and running backs. If it goes real long on one, maybe we'll delay and
Yeah.
split them. But if not, we'll try to fit them both in. But either way, we'll definitely get to it, and then we'll start. That maybe after those two, maybe we'll take a little bit of time off and recharge a little bit and start getting ready for the draft. And then don't forget baseball starting as well.
Heck yeah.
So we'll have content.
Heck yes. I can't. I mean, just there's so much. It's so great because football, man, it's like, all right, big game happened. Nicely this year, I get to revel in it for a few days. And then, oh, well, let's start looking at the draft.
Right. Yep.
There's always something to do with it, man. And the NFL, unlike we both love baseball and we both bitched about it a lot, but unlike baseball, NFL knows how to run an off season.
Oh yeah.
They keep it interesting the whole damn time. There's like a week off here, a week off there. Other than that, we're getting ready for this, we're doing that. It's beautiful.
Yep. Okay, cool.
All right, my
So I
man. Well, good
guess
stuff. That was a
that's
fun season.
everything. Absolutely. Another season, our second season has been completed. And as long as you are game, I will be ready to do a third season for sure.
Count me in. Unlike the Chiefs, we will have a three-peat.
Yes, we will. All
We can
right.
call Pat Riley for the
Why don't you
T-shirt.
call up the Fly Eagles Fly to close the show?
Oh, I love it. Dun, 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 dun. Give me one sec.
Make sure you guys join us for the top 10 running backs, top 10 quarterbacks next week. Thank you for joining us this week. I know it was a long one, but we got to a lot and it was a lot of fun. Hopefully, you had fun too. And until next time, and until Al cues up Fly Eagles Fly,
It's coming, but I'm having computer issues. Craig filibuster for 2 seconds.
you
There it is. I got it. I think.
got
I'm
to
the
turn
worst.
up.
Here it comes. There it is.
Thank you for joining us. Until next time, I will see you later.
EAGLES, Eagles. Thank you for